Hey everybody, this is Matt Jezyk from Motif, and we're here with the sixth and final incantation of the From the Ground Up series, our webcast from Motif. And this is a special one because it's end of year, everybody's working on their Christmas lists and working on final presentations of things. Hopefully, if you're at a firm, you have a little bit of time off this year and you're not have big deadlines coming up until the end of the year. For us, we had a pretty big year this year. We came out of stealth mode, we launched a product, we worked a lot of customers, iterated a lot, and we're going to use this session to literally wrap up the year. And to do that, I'm joined by two special guests. We have Amar Hanspal, our CEO, has joined us today, and then Tatjana, who was here last time at the last version of From the Ground Up. But we asked her back to give a more in-depth presentation about how the world is changing and how AEC is changing specifically with AI and machine learning. So with that, Amar, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really just we feel like it's a great time just to do the wrap up. Like kind of what we said is like what we'd really like your take. You know, you have such a great connection in the industry, a bunch of people you're talking with. We'd love to kind of have a little bit of time to reflect. Like it's been a pretty crazy year. How do you feel like it went? Like, you know, we launched the product, we came out of stealth mode. Like what were your thoughts about how that went?
It's been an amazing year. I'm really, really grateful. Let's talk about a couple of things. One, I'm always surprised when you say it's 2025. The number itself kind of freaks me out. Like
Right.
time is flying, right? I mean, it's really amazing to see how fast, the world sort of time is traveling. For us, in the last 12 months, it's definitely felt like a whirlwind of activity. Like we've been really busy. A lot of good things have happened. I can barely remember where we were at the same time at the end of 2024. I mean, it really feels like night and day. It's been a great year for us. I think crossing the line from being what you would call a stealth company into being one that people can now directly interact with and understand and use has been a wonderful experience. Very grateful for all the people that have partnered with us over the last 12 months. Yeah, time's flying and we're having fun.
Awesome. And for those of you that might not be familiar, like if you're coming at it from like an architecture engineering background, so like startups, you know, we sometimes you kind of work in stealth, like you work on something in isolation, working with some people, but you don't kind of come out publicly for a while. So this year we did that in February. We launched the Motif website, and then in March we actually launched the product. And the interesting thing about that is that we've been working with a set of architecture and engineering companies since the very beginning, so more than 2 years ago. And we've been working with them and building pretty much what they've asked us to do in the market. So maybe you could talk about that, like the design partners and
Yeah.
how they brought along for the journey.
Yeah. Look, I think one of the things I'm most grateful for is the partnership that we've had with the industry. So, literally, when we started the company, before we wrote a line of code, the first thing that we did was meet with a set of customers, both in Copenhagen and then in New York. And from that time onwards, we worked with, I would say, a dozen firms that really guided the development of the product that is out there right now, and which is, I would just say, it's the tip of the iceberg of everything that we're developing for the long term. So they've just, helped anchor our thinking, both for what we need to do for the industry in the long term, but also how we sequence that delivery in a way that they can solve problems for their businesses along the way. And yeah, I was really enjoyed and been grateful for the candor of the conversations we've had, where they've looked at us and said, well, that didn't work, or you guys should do this, or why are you doing that? Like, I think, like good, the best partners are very direct with you and they tell you what they like and what they dislike. And I would just say that they've been really fantastic partners for us. And I would
Mhm.
just also, we tried very hard to get a proper cross section of folks, that not just in terms of the geographies like London and New York or Copenhagen and these places, but also the kinds of work they do. So we can actually really have a proper reflection of what the industry wants to prioritize, as opposed to, the tippy top or, some other grouping of the folks that are providing feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think so that was all the building up to launching the product. And then what I really like is we've been able to put out releases really quickly. It's a web
Yeah.
application, of course. So every month we get stuff out, and that lets us be really responsive. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that versus how we developed software a couple of years ago at a different company?
I mean, it's absolutely, it's like the right way to do it. The whole thing of like continuous improvement, like, are you better today than you were yesterday? I think is a good philosophy for life as well as for software development. I think that what is really hard to do is back to you were talking about stealth is if you just sit in sort of a closed space and you're thinking through things and imagining what the industry wants, and then you work for 2 years and 3 years, and then you realize that you overshot or undershot the market. That used to be, I know it sounds kind of strange, but that used to be the way software is developed 15, 20 years ago. I think now it is much, not only is the iteration better and faster, but you get to a more unambiguous state because people are literally able to react to, smaller increments and tell you, no, 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 go slightly left here, or, no, no, you got this right and you need to change. So that the ability to reflect what you're hearing and be in the game is like the right way to develop software. One has to be thoughtful between what you want to do, what you want to iterate quickly on, and what you're really building for the long term. I think you
Right.
just really have to be thoughtful about that, but it is the right way to build software. I also just think that the reason we came out of stealth was to get that feedback, was to be in like really direct, intimate contact with the users and customers we have used the software.
Hmm.
And as they say in sports, or say in basketball, ball don't lie, right? Like you get
Exactly.
very direct sense in not just the words, but in the daily usage of people. And you can literally see the pattern going, well, they're using this part of the software, they're not using this part of the software. I mean, that is a
Mhm.
gift, and I think it is an incredible feeling when you can get that level of clarity in working with people.
Totally. And one thing that I like about that too is not just the product development, but the community development and just that
Right,
level of that dialogue back and forth and the level of investment. Like when we talk to somebody in September and then talk to them 2 weeks later and they're like, oh, that thing that I asked you for is already in the software. That's a
right.
virtuous cycle. Like
Yeah,
that really builds on each
absolutely.
other. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think it's definitely been a journey. What a ride. I mean, it's been like really not even a year, right? Like,
Yeah.
since February, March, like I remember frantically working on stuff and then getting it out and going to all these conferences and, events that we've spoken at and people we've met with. So great experience. And definitely for those of you in the industry, thanks so much for your participation. And if you haven't jumped in yet, reach out because we'd love to work with you some more and expect some new things coming out in the new year. Of course, we're putting out monthly releases. A couple other things, Amar, while we have you, I know you're super busy. I guess just at a higher level, like, yeah, we talked about all the things we're building and like, the building the company and the product and all that. But at a meta level, because you talk to so many of other people, like what are the things that excite you about what's happening in the industry or what's changing?
I mean, it's two parts to the answer, Matt. I mean, I think it obviously what the kinds of projects people are working on super interesting and exciting. Like to think about how not just the aesthetics of the building industry, the practice of how people are making buildings, the materials they're choosing, trying to make a more sustainable, climate resistant kind of set of structures. Like there's a lot of learning that has been very inspiring to me. Like that has been super fun to kind of hear what is in the minds and priorities of our customers. But as
Mhm.
a practitioner of software, I think the thing that really jazzes me up is there's never been a better time to build software than right now. There's like you and I have known each other for a while, and I think the last time we kind of built a platform for the building industry
Mhm.
26 years ago. And
Mhm.
I think, when you think about all the progress that has been made with technology in the last 26 years, really, there's so many things, right? You talk about cloud or AI, but even things like GPUs and parallel computing, like there's so much infrastructure that has appeared, and the ability
Mhm.
now to solve problems that the industry has been sort of trying to get us to understand for all those 26 years. It's never
Right.
been a better time than now to really actually build something fresh and modern. And that's really,
Mhm.
really exciting. So I think that to me is Never been a better time. There's so much tooling, so much technology, so many ways to rethink experiences. And that's, it really is fun to sort of wake up every morning and see what we could get done today.
Absolutely. That's what I'm actually looking forward to over the holidays is having a couple quiet mornings to fire up, Cursor or ChatGPT and really
Yes.
work on some problems that instead of
Yes.
sitting in meetings and talking to people, like how do you like do some things almost back to like the
Right.
original things at Autodesk days, like people would, like whatever the dimension
Right.
tool got added over the holiday break during the week of rest and
Exactly.
stuff. Right.
I mean, I don't think your listeners know this, but when you were in Vienna over summer, I named you the vibe coder of Vienna because you were busy prototyping a bunch of functionality. And I think
Mhm.
more seriously, it's another example of just like seeing how much is more is possible today in as
Mhm.
compared to 15 years ago. If you were trying to get a software developer to understand, I need you to implement dimensioning like this, you would have all these things to write and all these sort of sketches to create. Now you can just prototype and say, I need you to do this. That level of communication and clarity that you can drive through tools like what's available now to product management or product design is incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think and it's really just about increasing that level of communication. It's not saying this is
Yeah,
shipping code. Like there's a difference between like vibe coding and saying putting it out and that's a product. Like obviously there's
right.
security
Production.
implications, performance, all this stuff, but like it's just instead of writing, I mean, you were a product manager back in the day, like writing PRDs and MRDs and specs and like 20-page documents, like I think those days are a little bit behind us now.
Absolutely. And back to your iteration point, not only can you iterate with engineering, but you can iterate with the customer.
Mhm.
Did you mean this? Is this what you want? And
Mhm.
get them to sort of give you feedback even before you actually implement it in production, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean just before we move on, like that's the last anecdote for people that are from the world a little bit more. Like there's a lot of similarities between building software and building buildings. Like we work with, software developers. There's sort of like contractors in like the building profession speak of like there's people that are the masters of their craft. They know how to put a steel building together, or concrete or brick or windows, all that stuff. But instead of like the people that you're working with to build a building, like these guys have PhDs and have like insane math degrees and all that kind of stuff. So like it still comes down to it's easier to play with ideas early and iterate on them. It's more expensive the later you get in the process, right? So if you got 20 people working on something for 6 months, you probably don't want to change it. So but if you have one person thinking about it for 2 days, then that time is cheap. So that's cool. Okay, so a couple of the things, like I know you got to run. We know architecture engineering space changes slowly. Construction changes slowly. There are other industries that are kind of moving a little faster, but like you mentioned, like this generational shift of like 26-year-old technologies to now. But are there other examples, like when you talk to the investment community, like what are the kind of examples or precedents that you use with them?
Like, just so I want to make sure I understand, is that what some kind of parallels in other industries?
Yeah, like desktop to cloud. Like what's something that was only available on the desktop like 10 years ago that now no one ever uses that tool. It's all cloud or all this new platform instead. Like are there we've used like Adobe and Figma, for example, or other
Oh,
things
that
like that.
those guys. Yeah, I mean, like, look, there are parallels happening. So look, when you have all these big platform shifts and technology shifts, you get to sort of rethink or reimagine user experiences. And I know that sounds like a little bit of a inside baseball term, but the idea is that you can really change the way the software presents itself to the user. I mean, I think about mobile, and you're using cloud as an example. Like, think about how mobile software has changed our lives, whether it's DoorDash or Uber. Like, it is the task that we used to do many years ago, but the
Mhm.
way you do it is completely changed, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you would never think of calling a restaurant now and giving the order over the phone. And there's so many benefits with
Right.
it. Like, nobody gets your order wrong, etc., etc. You know where
Mhm.
it is. Like, you change the experience of the user completely. And I think
Mhm.
that's the parallel I see is with the way all of these technologies, the opportunity we have is to really up level the experience that people have. Like, it's so, sometimes when I look at what we built 25 years ago, it is so like task based, like, one,
Mhm.
one, one, when there's such a richer context in which you can redefine the experience. Like, people are not designing walls or drawing walls. They're trying to design a space like that. The up leveling of that is sort of the biggest opportunity that we have. And in other industries, you absolutely see it. Like we could talk about software development, but I can look at, what's going on in the creative space. You use Figma as an example, but there's so many tools that are coming out now. Let's say for advertising companies that are doing brand designs, like the way they present the ability for people to create brand collateral is dramatically different than what was 26 years ago, where people are interacting with very discrete things like, okay, I need to bring in an image and now I need to create a mask and now I need to create a layer, etc., etc. But it's like you can literally tell the system, I need this thing in this size for these assets with these sets of changes, and it does that, right? So it's like you're up leveling the interaction. And I think that's the opportunity we have. And I do definitely think that the creative industry is a great example from which we can borrow and learn for what we need to do in the physical space, like they're doing in the digital space.
Totally. Yeah. And this is obviously a great way to do that is to build a new platform that can think about these things. And what a great transition to talk about AI and ML, right? So like we know foundationally these things are changing the world, not just our space.
Yeah.
I think definitely, props to you for investing in that, right? So we
Yeah.
have a team working on machine learning problems, and it's headed up by Tanya, who I'd like to bring up in a second here and talk about her view of the world. But I think it's like that's the key thing that I like about this is like there's a longer term bet, and then there's like
Yeah.
trying to skate to where the puck is really the key thing that we're trying to
Absolutely.
do.
I mean, you asked me about 2025. Like, not only am I excited about the fact that we got a product out, but I think this was the year we went from thinking about AI and ML to actually developing on it. And again, people are seeing one tip of many of the iceberg that we are developing, where we have so many places where we can bring that technology to bear. And I'm glad that you have Tatjana here to share her point of view on what the industry should be thinking about and leveraging. And this is the most transformational technology, I think, of our lifetime. And I think it's got huge potential to help the building industry.
Good stuff. Well, Amar, I know you got to run, but thank you so much. I know you're super busy.
Sure.
Jumping on to this last of our sessions of From the Ground Up, and hopefully come back next year. Thanks.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you. Cheers.
All right. So, and now I want to introduce Tanya, who, like I said last time, if you guys are a fan of the pod, if you will, Tanya was on in the 3 weeks ago, I guess, the last time we were on, and we talked about what we're doing in AI and machine learning in Motif, like in the product today. And she also is a great friend, a great speaker. She's one of the most interesting evangelist and challenge, like great speakers and external people that I know. We've worked together a really long time. And she gave a great talk at a conference about a month ago, talking about how the industry is changing and some of the other players in this space that we know, and some of them we're friends with, and just looking at the phenomenon of how AI and machine learning are affecting this industry. So we'd love to have Tanya come on up and give basically that presentation or a summation of that, just to help people understand, again, like beyond what we're building in Motif, but just how the world is changing a little bit more. So Tanya?
Thanks, Matt. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, yeah, 2025. What a year. I mean, it was exhilarating and it was exhausting. I feel like somebody literally hit me hard on my head. As somebody who has worked on 12, 13 software solutions, I can tell you that nothing prepared me for AI. The soil underneath feels like a shifting lava lake, and it's moving fast and faster. We are breathless. We are all not understanding what's going on, and we have barely time to adjust and to prepare. So the only choice for all of us here is to just enter in the middle of it and figure out the destination while we're doing and while we're learning. So today is all about celebrating AI in AEC. It's not about Motif. It's about every single pioneer, every single brave person who is trying to figure out how to leverage this incredible power of AI to do something better or different in our industry. And just to say, if you came here to hear from an expert, I'm not. Nobody is an expert on AI today. The people who develop the large language models, yes, they're expert on the technologies, but they have no idea of our industry. And then the industry experts like us or design technologies, we're literally just trying to make sense of this. So the only way to get a common understanding, to build an intuition of what this is and how can we leverage it, is to simply learn, do, and share between each other. And this is what this session is about, really a little bit to share how I personally made sense of AI and some analogies that helped me. And then we're going to go through 50 plus AI solutions for the AEC space. There are a small selection of something that I've been following, and then some humble conclusions from me. Okay, so what's all the fuss about AI? Let me at least tell you how I see it from the perspective of design technologies and from the perspective of the process of making a software, which is my experience after being an architect for the last 23, 24 years. So initially, when we were developing software, times of AutoCAD, etc., and even further than into Revit, basically we were doing it the traditional way. What that means is that the logic in the software was hard-coded, and the software was deterministic, which means that given the exact same input and starting conditions, we always produce the identical output and follow the same execution path. So to build that, we needed to anticipate everything that the user wants to do, and any updates were a lot of manual work, but we were getting a single answer. What we needed to have in order to do that is really just good understanding of the industry. When it comes to our role as a user in traditional systems, we basically as users just follow fixed command paths, and we are basically having the role of an operator. Then the industry moved to, wait, there is a smarter way to use computers and not just, do it manually like a digital arm or a little bit with some intelligence. So we moved to computational systems where the logic is parametric or algorithmic, and you don't code each outcome, you code how the outcomes relate, or you basically code the rules. And relationships, dependencies, and constraints are basically expressed as rules. Usually these were offered as visual programming interfaces. It was a scripted logic, and it was giving us many possible answers depending on the levers that we could push and pull. To do this, we needed parameterized data structures and understanding of geometry rules, and the user was basically manipulating parameters and systems and acting as a computational designer. And now we are in the age of AI, where there is no coding. Basically, the logic is evolving, and because the system basically self-codes itself after being exposed to millions of examples, it starts to infer what is good and what should be done. So it is a probabilistic and emergent behavior, and it can give us infinite number of answers and never the same one. To be able to do this, to create a system that learns itself, codes itself, a logic that evolves, we need gigantic, large, curated data sets. And this now changes our role as a user, where the AI infers and it interprets and the designer reviews. So basically we start to assume a role of curator or a collaborator with the system. So we're kind of moving from explicit programming to data-driven inference, and this is really all leveraging the breakthrough of the foundational models that now allow one model to do images, video, 3D models, and to do more than one task. They're not spatialized. And as we have heard, their AI, advanced AI, is leveraging many things like natural language processing, where we understand and interpret human language, pattern recognition, where we identify complex, non-obvious relationships, then classification, categorizing and understanding complex data based on some learned characteristics, clustering, about grouping, etc. All of that to create this emergent behavior. And then for any industry solution, basically, it's some combination of all of these generative, predictive, optimization, and other capabilities of AI. So, for example, this is Motif's view or image to render. Something like this as a solution is basically a combination of generative modeling, where you basically generate new visual content, computer vision, where you interpret visual information, transfer learning, where you apply knowledge across different modalities, etc., etc. So now, I will give you one more thing where when talking especially to more senior architects and they really cannot grasp their head around AI, I refer to the movie from Peter Greenaway called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, because this is how I make sense of AI and remember. So the cook, the big chef. Chefs really have not memorized 100,000 recipes, and that's why they're good. They understand the underlying principles of cooking, and that's why they can create something unique every time. And they learn from past successes and failures. Then the thief. What do thieves do? They quickly absorb information from multiple resources. They build patterns. They extract and identify patterns. And they're able to find connections that are not obvious. That's why they're thieves and crooks, right? And then the wife. What's a wife? What's a woman? It's basically the person who creates an environment for something to grow, to provide right conditions for growth. Because AI is not built, it's not constructed. It's growing and ever-evolving, provided cultivating conditions. And finally, the lover. If you have ever asked yourself, why do you recognize your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, in a crowd of 500 people, or just from the shadow behind the curtain, or from the back? It's not because you have mathematically studied the proportions of their bodies and the distance between the arms and this and that. It's from your continuous exposure of that person in many different situations, forms, and shapes, so that you can infer from the littlest of information about it. So if that helps you to build intuition about AI, that's how I interpreted it. Okay, so obviously in the AEC industry, there's so many areas where AI can help. I just want to tell you what I'm mostly excited about. Everybody talks about automation and augmentation. It's amazing that we are enabled now to automate things that are boring. Our profession has become really boring. Everything that we wanted to do is now 5% of the time, and everything else that we never wanted to do is basically 90% of the work. So if we can automate and if we can augment to do more with what we know, that's amazing. But I'm mostly excited about the experience. And that to me means that as an architect, I always love to express myself with pencils, with sketching and with storytelling. That is something that we see a lot of signals that will be brought back as a main communication method. And we're not gonna anymore model and this and that, but we can in a much more fluid way express ourselves. But mostly, and as a part of the experience, I'm excited because I'm excited by the prospect that we will end the terror of the technological expertise. When we invented CAD, we needed CAD experts. Then we invented 3D experts, BIM experts, then computational design experts, rendering experts. Don't get me wrong, many of my friends are these experts, and I appreciate them highly. But this is not scaling. And that's why many tools could not really impact the industry as much as they could, because they were not accessible. I really believe that the strongest technology of all will actually make the technology disappear, the barrier of technology disappear, and we will all be augmented to do more. Okay, that was my little intro. Now let's go to all that jazz. Whatever I show you, I will show you more the disruptors that I've been looking at. I'm not going to cover the incumbents. They have big marketing engines, and they probably have already told you what they do. I want you to remember that everything that you see is mostly based on the foundation models of the likes of what OpenAI, Google, Anthropic develop, and then the others like Runway Stability when it comes to images or videos or 3D or worlds, and then based on the infrastructure and the aggregators like NVIDIA, Hugging Face, etc. So let's take a look at just the panorama of solutions. They stole 10 minutes of my time, so they will probably cut me in the middle, but let's see how far we go. Okay, you start a project, you need research. We live in the best time ever for research. With ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, you can find out so many things in such an easy way, be it about the ecology of the place or the climate or the cultural aspects or the architectural history. And frankly, you can also find out more about the clients that you want to work on. It is an incredible power. If you don't use it yet, use it. My go-to tool is Notebook LLM. It's a virtual research assistant from Google, and if you have not used it, what it basically allows you to do is you upload your own documents or a bunch of PDFs from research or YouTube links, etc., and it makes sense of that. It can make a podcast, a video overview, kind of a visual graph, or even learning cards and presentations, so you can, drive back home and just listen to it as a podcast instead of reading, etc. And you can communicate with it, ask questions, etc. To me, both in my private life, because I have lots of interest, and as an architect, this is incredibly powerful. Now, early on, we need to do visual concepts. I'm not going to stop on this long because I know every one of you has already used some of the text to image or image to image or image to video. I just want you to remember the structure of the ecosystem. We have foundational models, which is for image generation, these 5, and for video generation, these ones, and they're getting ever better with Nano Banana kicking everybody's butt lately. Then we have foundation models for text or image to 3D. This is not yet as advanced as the text to image and text to video. However, it shows good signs on being almost there for creating 3D assets. But when it comes to architecture, we need a little bit more. Ishmael Selet from Foster was showing on one of his workshops how he's using Hanyuan to basically create a shape from text to image and then use that image to create a 3D shape in Hunyuan and then go to Rhino, quad it, and start to slice it as a potential new way to start a design and not necessarily model something from scratch. And then we have foundational models for world models, where World Labs, led by Fei-Fei Li, allows you now with one single image to create this. It's much more than 360. You can literally drive through and explore. And it's based on single image. If you have multiple images of your imagined things, it's a way to start conversation again before even modeling something. Then you have the aggregators. Those are like of the kind of Comfy UI, Flora, Fauna, Weavy, Xfigura. They're generic, aside from Xfigura is made by George and is focusing on architecture. But basically what they allow you is to use any of the underlying foundational models and in visual interfaces create something that you can trace back and understand how you did it and create workflows. And then there are AEC specialized AI rendering applications of the type of Typus or Veras. They're either individual or they have plugins for the big solutions, but they are kind of, when they're independent, they break the workflow of having to export an image, do it, then you want to make a change, go back to the authoring tool, etc. And what we do is AI specialized, but integrate it natively in a bigger workflow. This is Motif, for those of you who have not seen it. Basically, you can stream Revit views, Rhino views, you can make easily views and then drag and drop them and start to render them either without any prompt but with pre-prepared, really beautiful settings where architects would respond to that aesthetic. And from photorealistic to black and white to watercolor, we are now introducing sketch and collage, etc. So, but this is part of the workflow of collaboration, etc. Then we introduced also text to video or image to video, where this was my first try, and I must say I was mind blown. I created this rendering and just said, camera, start from bird eye view and just go closer to the building and then go in between the buildings. And this is what I got. It is, to me, unimaginable that I can do something like this without photoshopping, without learning about video, light, etc. And you can do that also on already made renders like an escape render, where you can take a white, beautiful white render and just with prompt bring it to come to life with all the materials and colors with a single click. We have empowerment, we are augmented, we still need to be architects and understand if this is good or not, and but it helps us in the communication or in the evaluation of our own design. And then there's some really crazy things that we just introduced this month, where you can use image reference and with a single prompt, without anything, just ask to be applied as a pattern in your design. The world is crazy. Okay, that's on the image, video, text, etc. Now move on, maybe you're working on a retrofit. What you need is first to probably scan your environment. There are now really much more advanced tools than when I was working on Recap and Memento. Basically, MetaRoom can scan rooms or entire building using your iPhone, and then generates CAD-ready 3D room models and 2D floor plans, and they can be edited, shared, and exported in various formats. So they use AI for object recognition and assignment of type, etc. Then there is AirTeam. It's a German company. They made a really great job making really high resolution 3D models, again, from drone capture, so drone cloud and AI, that you can then use to accurately measure if you want to put solar panels or if you need to do energy retrofit, etc. Then there's some really interesting solutions. Obviously, this is a little bit more expensive, but this is really a service to inspect the envelope health so that you can help owners to prioritize maintenance or retrofit, because it can locate insulation gaps, leaks, window sill failures, etc. So it does automatic diagnostic of the building exteriors and the envelope from drones and thermal imaging and AI-driven analytics. And lately, I'm hearing more and more from Up42. They basically search, order, and process geospatial data and they offer APIs and SDKs, but it's basically satellite imagery, drone data, and AI analytics to do various to analyze site constraints, land use, heat islands, and evaluate some environmental development patterns. Now you have the scan, and in some of those cases, you need to actually bring that scan in your BIM model. Auribus exists already pre-modern AI. They've been using detection and classification, but basically what they allow you to do is to scan, capture the reality, and then convert the point clouds or the laser scans into usable BIM, CAD models and structured data. Then there is WiseBIM that are doing similar, but they take 2D plans and convert them into Revit elements, into walls, doors, windows, slabs. And a little bit more, in my opinion, advanced version is Amplify, where it's a cloud tool. You just drag and drop. I literally just did this yesterday. You drag and drop a floor plan, and you can see the building of the BIM elements in front of your eyes. And you just click Start Amplify, and it does that. Basically, it detects the building elements, and it automates the conversion of that detected geometry that you can then take into Revit. And then there is Beamify, that is kind of software and a little bit of a service. If you need Revit models, you can basically define what level of detail you need, what LOD, etc. You get a real-time quote, and then you can either hire the service that has a little bit of manual fixing after that to provide you the best BIM model, but also they claim that this is also a platform for maintenance of your digital building models, because it has ability to update at any change. If you work on a new building, you need sitemaps. I love INO. It's a sweet little tool that understands the aesthetic of architects. So basically, how often have you found yourself, you need a portion of the map, then you have to Photoshop and cut and this and that. They've introduced a agentic way to basically ask for the area, and then you can identify how do you want to see it, how far it goes. And you can ask things like, what is the building density in this polygon, or show me all the schools and transit, etc. It's really a beautiful tool. Then there is something like Ecopia, when you need a larger area, but in really, really absolutely high resolution. This is probably for a little bit more special projects and for municipalities or federal government to support infrastructures and stuff. And there is CityWeft. We have talked with them a lot. I don't think they actually have AI, and they might be wrong, but it's also a great tool for just generate and export accurate 3D city models. Now we enter in the feasibility studies and layout, which is so populated and busy, and it's probably because it's a low-hanging fruit. I will show you different solutions, but almost all of them have common features around layout and feasibility study, where they work on spatial optimization or parametric design generation, or real-time constraints and rule-based modeling, etc., etc. So they leverage generative design, reinforcement learning, predictive analytics to help you make sense of the site. So Infrared City, beautiful, especially I love them because they created something that is AI-driven, but it deals with the microclimate and the environmental simulation for in the early stages of design. And they use machine learning and neural networks trained on large simulation data sets to help you do this really, really fast, much faster than with traditional simulation. Urbanistic DE is a German company. Basically, it's a SaaS platform for early stage urban planning and architecture. They also include real-time building code compliance checks, and you can also assign some KPIs and variant analysis, and also 3D modeling. Then Giraffe, we love our friends at Giraffe. It's a cloud platform that is aimed at urban design. It does development feasibility and early building site modeling. And basically, it's about putting all the spatial context in one place, and it's always live, and it's always interactive, and you can overlay kind of data layers. You can draw, assign usage, restack floors, and they have a generative part as well. All of these tools, you just need to try them. They all look similar, but every one of them has a little angle of some new idea. Digital Bluebeam, they focus on a couple of things. One is basically to generate development scenarios for future proof of urban transformation. So they compute urban green space index to assign, recreational opportunities or reduce carbon emissions or urban risk assessment as well. TestFit, they've been here for a while. They have a beautiful solution for real estate feasibility. You draw parcel boundaries or input site geometry, and then you apply constraints, setbacks, parking requirements, etc., and you get multiple site layouts and test fits options to really help you understand yield, parking, site coverage, etc. Hectare, they have been also quite prominent lately. It's all about contextual and geospatial inputs that basically you can then use Hectare to produce multiple layouts and volume proposals based on the constraints. And what I love is they allow you also to compare them. And I will run faster through the rest of them. There is Outline AI that focuses more on warehouses and distribution centers, so logistical building planning. Then there is Pasio that also wants to kind of accelerate early stage architectural design with this, again, AI-assisted building layout. And they also do area mixes, KPIs, and it's obviously exportable to BIM. Finch, I love the fact that so many of the applications are built by architects. When you are hurting, you don't always wait for a doctor, you do it yourself. So they have really a beautiful solution. They recently also added an agent, and basically it takes rough massing models and transform them into more refined architectural layouts. They use graph-based rules for spaces and adjacencies and relationships. Arc Design, I forgot her name, Present. It's also a great tool. You start with the general shape, and then you define the core, the elevators and the corridor, and then it allows you to do different variations of your layouts, but it's all editable. It uses also generative AI to do massing and layouts automatically based on geometry, based on constraints, and based on different typologies. And there is Archistar, it's just never ending. Pluto, I would call out because it does focus a little bit on, I skipped it, on sustainability and environmental requirements. Cove Tools have been here for a while. They seem to be pivoting, but they recently introduced Vitras AI, that is their proprietary AI system, and that allows you basically to do zoning, feasibility, performance, to do some early stage documentation and understanding of your area without even having started the project. And then there is Parallelo. It's floor plan and unit mix optimization tool. They focus on large-scale residential. There is Passive or Spassive. This one is really lovely. You should take a look at some of the videos. I love it because it combines workspace strategy and space optimization. They start from portfolio of locations, then their organizational models, the departments, then they do assessment of user needs. They have a big catalog of space modules. And then the AI translates for them the user needs and assigns different layouts, etc. It's a beautifully made solution. And gosh, there are many. Let me just check that they're not screaming at me. No, I'm good. Archeologic, this is between editing and embedding digital floor plans, but it's basically focusing on interior spaces. Same with Cubic. I think this one is more for office spaces. And then there's some automated layout generation of pure floor plans like layout or area, arealize.ai. My God, there are so many AIs in the names that I cannot pronounce them. And I want to stop with three that in this section, that I really love. I know the founders, they're incredibly thoughtful people. One is Romantic Lab and Raven. Basically, it's an AI agent that understands parametric logic and generates for you from pure text Grasshopper scripts based on your intent, but it is embedded in a workflow. You can do solar analysis, you can quickly prototype patterns, tectonic systems, etc. They're great guys. Reach out, learn what they do, go to a workshop. We love them. And then our friends from Hyper, Ian has been a long-time collaborator and a dear friend. He is working on a collaborative space planning tool for typologies with repetition and really build a solution that encapsulates the design logic into reusable modules. So you can do layout suggestions, program optimization. And finally, Schema, Marty Osmanith, who was in the original Revit days, the first product manager of Revit before Autodesk purchased Revit. And he is working on speeding up schematics to BIM. And it's really a design automation, but it reuses BIM elements, and it has bidirectional interoperability with Revit. We're moving now to design development. There is a lot happening actually on documentation. You probably are all aware of Swap AI. It's an AI-driven platform for automating architectural documentation, but also BIM modeling. So you upload your BIM model, the AI processes the model, and then it can apply from standards or auto-generate documentation. There is Genia Design. I love this one. This is structural engineering. Not that I understand any of that. Well, a little bit as an architect I had to learn, but they have built something very elegant. Of course, for structure, it's a little bit easier when it's rule-based than architecture. Architecture is much more than rule-based, as we know. Then there is a lot of agentic automation. I'm going to go into Speedy Gonzalez mode now. So at least that I flash on the screen some of the tools. This is drawing automation in Revit. Revit is lucky that so many people are building really nice automation tools. Pele is one of them. It automates through prompting repetitive tasks and inquires the Revit database in a new way. There's Glyph, also automation of repetitive tasks in Revit. There is Archilab. It's a co-pilot automation for architects, and it's also focusing on integration with Revit, BIM Engine AI as well. Athena is slightly different because it, a little bit like Raven, it uses Dynamo to automate tasks in Revit. And this one, I must say, I am very curious where this will go because I'm the most skeptical when somebody makes a solution that generates a building design from prompt. I don't think we architects like that, but let me prove myself wrong and see where they go. Architects figured out finally that we start every project with with the total amnesia of previous projects, and we never learned from previous experiences. So now with AI especially started to understand that there is a lot of power in the knowledge bases in the firm and to start to make sense of them. So they adopt more and more solutions like synthesis, and then a lot of new agents to help them make sense of the knowledge that they already have and do some process automation. There is Arki, Natalia is working on this. Again, her point is to find answers instantly and really search, retrieve, version, deduplicate, and reuse past drawings. There is AI Apprentice, our friend Howard, who is unstoppable. He built Reop and now is on a new quest with AnchorDB. He says something beautiful that we all agree. BIM could never realize its potential because project is not just the information that was in BIM. It needs to connect with everything else that was living outside of the BIM to be really useful. So he is working on a really beautiful BIM data management solution that visualizes the BIM data and automates on rule-based data consistencies. And there is open asset AI-assisted proposal workflow. There are a bunch for code compliance. I'll just really run through them because I want to arrive to the end and make some points. Definitely check Upcode and Code Comply. They're incredible. There's some co-pilots for building code or like Plannerly for governance and compliance of for large buildings. There is also Chat AEC, regulatory research for early development, and ARCAS. They just came out. They're very loud, so we want to see what they do. I'm not going to show too many construction applications, but the Embura I really like because they understand that in sheets review and design review, you not only want to know the change, but sometimes you just want to see it and compare. So I really like that. And then these are also friends, Michael Bergin, he built something that is literally focusing on very small niche for volume residential and home builder, but goes from first idea to complete construction documentation and even bid documentation, etc. So the construction ones are really about takeoffs and cost estimates, quantity extraction, cost estimate, generate project scheduling based on a prompt, and it covers the entire schedule review. Then there is NPlan to validate, analyze, and improve schedules. Alice to do construction simulation for scheduling and planning. And then Nifty AI that is really smart assistant for during construction. There's some environmentally focused applications. Check One-Click LCA. It's really amazing. And C-Scale. I'm going through this quickly. Tra-la-la. Here I wanted to celebrate architects who are building environmental tools and are generously sharing with everybody because they understand that it's not about competing when it comes to the good of the planet. So, wow, that was a lot. And this was just a small selection from little Tanya. So what's going to happen? We know that we're already overwhelmed with solutions. Do we think that all of these solutions will become tools? Unfortunately, they will not. There will be a big consolidation. Some will not survive it. But what they are incredibly useful early showcases of how the world might look like and where all in our workflows can we leverage the power of AI. This is why it's important, support them, try them out, give them feedback, because eventually we will consolidate and make a couple of really strong tools. So none of these pointed solutions is really looking to replace the current BIM that we know. It's 25 years old and it really has hit its limits. There are only few companies that are tackling what we're calling BIM 2.0. I want to celebrate them as well. They're all people we know, they're all friends, and they all genuinely try to invent something that will bring a better practice in our industry. We came the last with Snapshot leading as the first one. And then it was Speckle, and then Arcol and Koenig in 2021. We came out in 2023 in the middle of the AI storm, which I hope gives us the advantage of not putting AI later and additionally to traditional workflows, but really rethink how we do it. Now, we will not have time to go over Motif. I wanted to just share a couple of things. Come to one of our other webinars that is just focused on Motif. But to wrap, where is this all going? We know that building design is overwhelmingly complex and just getting more and more complex. There are interconnected challenges. There is carbon emissions and material sourcing and local conditions and cost and economic constraints and supply chains, etc. It's just overwhelming, and we basically need to switch more and more as architects to be more thorough system thinkers, and that does require that we have interconnected design approach, that we break traditional design and discipline in silos, that we don't just care about our little part in the puzzle, that we need feedback loops, that we need holistic perspective of the ecosystem. But can we do that on our own? Our brains struggle because human cognition has limits in processing multiple complex variables simultaneously. So we saw what AI can do. AI really offers paradigm shift in design from linear to more systematic thinking, more contextual information. It will allow us to build new tools that allow unlimited, unconstrained collaboration, but it's really allowing for more holistic design approach. So where I think this will be going, it's definitely in what Thomas Maloney calls superminds. We really are going to not have to choose between machines or us. Nobody's going to die. Nobody's taking over. The real solution will be that we work together with these partners that make us better while we use them, and we make them better with the feedback. So I feel that our is towards this infinite collaboration space that will be a dynamic environment in which we co-create, we co-fight with the machines, where the AI rapidly generates and evaluates, and then we assess, etc. So the future, there is the cone of uncertainty. We will see how it all evolves. But I personally think that the most successful architects of tomorrow will be those who master this human-AI symbiosis, not the technicians who just use AI, but really visionary designers who think with AI and who create solutions that neither the humans alone nor the machines alone can do independently. And so our challenge is not just technological, but it's really philosophical of how do we do this. So no more excuses. Get out of your silos. Try out all of these new tools. Support them for a month, or be part of the revolution. This is the next revolution since BIM. It's much bigger. It might eat us all. And I really look forward to connecting with some of you in 2026. And with that, I'll shut up.
What a great presentation, Tanya. Really appreciate it. And just show notes, like, so we will add links to all these other people that are out in the market. Like, we're not advocating for one person or the other. We're just indicating that the world is changing really, really fast, and there's a lot of great new companies and new people that are investing in this space and putting themselves out there. So appreciate that.
And inspiration to build intuition about what's possible, because I can tell you one thing. I know that we architects are so versatile and so creative. Once we have really internalized what does this mean, we can come up with better ideas. We will not need Matt and Tanya and all the other colleagues from the other companies to figure things out, but you will push us to build the tools that you imagine.
Yeah, of course. So I do want to switch to the Q&A section, and for those of you that are on the webcast still, please feel free to add more questions. We'll stick around. Definitely my fault for going a little late with the inspiring talk with Amar. And sorry, Tanya, but I think, yeah, it's amazing content.
Actually, it should have been just the two of you all the time. That was really interesting also to listen.
So yeah, but this is good. So like specific to this, we're seeing some great questions coming in. So one of them is from one of our friends, Elaine. So what's your position, Tanya, on the assertion that LLMs will struggle to solve physical AI problems that we have in design? Like, you kind of alluded to that a little bit. And then do you agree or disagree with that? Like, will basically these AI tools start to understand like really what architecture is and what structural engineering is kind of the question. And then the follow-up is like,
I think yes.
Oh yeah, just one more. So like, will World Labs create what we need for design logic, or do we need I don't know if this term, but JEPA approach? I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah. So like that sort of follow up, like how much domain knowledge do we think that these tools have now? And if you follow that extrapolation curve, how much will they acquire over the next year or two? Because it's happening pretty quickly.
Yeah. So look, I'm definitely not going to have any answers that are smarter than what you yourself think, not to defend the profession, but as I mentioned, structural design is rule-based. That's going to be really probably difficult to justify in 1 year or two why a machine cannot do it, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that the machine will do Santiago Calatrava, because Calatrava is also an architect, not just an engineer. So he's looking at also the more ephemeral, etc. things. But I really believe that architecture has never been just about a shape and a form and some logic, but it's so much deeper around human needs, around changing societies, and God knows our society will change exactly because of AI. Now, when it comes to that, so I just cannot see it that there will be any good scenario in which machines will build buildings. When it comes to what World Labs is doing or what Jan LeCun is referring, look, technically the models will get better and better. I do want to leave. I was always wondering, in games you have gravity, you have this and that, and we still don't have that in architectural. So it will be helpful, but it will not be replacing any one of us.
I mean, I think one of the key things that we're working on, foundational models, is kind of a fun topic. Like, can you talk maybe, and like, obviously we don't want to give away internal secrets, but like right now, the foundational models that are out there that everybody's using are pretty much text-based, right? So like, and then they understand images and pixels. Like, just philosophically, do you think that they will ever understand vectors and geometry and even higher level semantic things in buildings?
Yeah, look, in general, people who work on AI now, they do two things. Either, majority of us at the moment, they're doing that, which is we take these existing foundational models and we just try to build applications on top of them. And some do separate applications, some like us want to be part ingrained in a new workflow that we imagine, but that's that. And then there are many unresolved problems that there's simply no foundational models. So when it comes to architecture, we definitely are working and we will have to develop new models. It might be in collaboration with some of the big companies, but I don't think that the generic stuff, we are a little bit now blindsided by the, nano banana and image generation, but real architecture will require much more understanding that needs to be trained.
I think that's a real great like challenge for the industry, is like collectively, like both people in practice and other software companies, like how do we start to evolve the industry? Like it's not just about using these other foundational models or other technology from other people, like how do we wrest control of those things and become masters of this for our industry?
Yeah.
Good stuff. So there's a few other questions in here. I think you answered like, like the definitely encourage, like, we'll do the show notes after this. Like there's a great constellation of people that are
Yeah,
out there
I will
today.
definitely make a list of all of them with hyperlinks. It took
And
me a
then I
while.
really like the idea, like we really appreciate some of the other people that are making the run at this kind of BIM 2.0 space. Like it's a really great opportunity to help really make better tools, like generational tools for architects.
You know what I love also, Matt? When we were working in big companies, there was so much competition and stuff. I really feel, of course, there is always a healthy competition, but we genuinely appreciate each other because we know it's hard to build a future. Not just build it, it's hard to even imagine a new way of working in this crazy environment where every day there is something newer and better and faster, and the expectations are higher for our architects clients. Their
Hmm.
clients expectations are higher. Everybody is under pressure, and it's not easy what we do. It's easier when we work with you, with architects, but
Hmm.
I seriously, truly appreciate everyone who is trying to question the existing state of things. We have been such a stagnant industry, and I'm jumping like a yo-yo, seeing all of these efforts, and there are many that I probably missed, but it's a beautiful time to be alive. I mean, it might kill us all. We might not have jobs anymore in general. We have no idea what will happen with society. But at least for a moment, can we enjoy the few things that can do good for us as architects?
Totally. I think that's a really great way to end it, is that definitely, as we end this year. So thanks everyone that's been on this one and previous from the ground ups. Please follow motif.io on various socials and look for updates from us. We're still doing monthly product updates and of course these sort of webcasts. The thing that I really like about this is that there are people taking a run at this, right? So the industry is changing. We need better tools. We think we have an answer there, and you'll see more of that coming this year. But there are other answers too, and that's okay. So how do we evolve the industry is kind of where it's coming. And as we wrap up for the year, as you guys are working on your Amazon Christmas list and waiting for packages to be delivered, take a look at some of these tools because they're pretty amazing. If you have time to sit down over a cup of coffee and contemplate where the industry is going, try some of these new tools out because the world's changing pretty fast and hopefully we can keep up with it.
Let's
So
make
thanks,
some
Tanya.
chats together. Let's explore those tools together and talk because this is the thing. And by the way, we have in Motif, we have tackled some really big, hairy problems. So we are not yet showing behind the scene what we're working on. But if you start collaborating with us now, you can be part of that and you can help us define it because we're not going to make it alone. So that was a shameless plug for Motif at the end, but I really invite you to join
Yeah.
us.
Definitely, and more on that in the new year. But with that, let's spend time with friends and family, catch up with your loved ones, eat some great food, think great thoughts, and try out some of these new tools. So awesome! Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Matt. Bye.